Hey guys, so I have about a little over 28 minutes to go before I clock in, but I wanted to do this video, which of course by the time you watch this I'll already be home, the computer will already be back on, and I'll probably be in my comfortable clothes because I'm off tomorrow, but I do have to work Monday. It's one of those situations where the scheduling's getting a little bit more, I guess you could say, acceptable from a financial standpoint. But anyway, getting on topic here of what this is about. A person at some of the various Sonic groups, if you will, a person at some of the various Sonic groups came out and did a list. The person was known as, or the person is known as Ian Manning. Ian Manning did this about, I would say, according to this, about 14 hours ago, which right now it's 8:30, so 14 hours ago would have probably been about 6:30 in the evening my time. But they basically gave their thoughts, as I try to lighten up the thing here on my phone, the screen that is. But they gave their thoughts on the Sonic comic, basically, and mainly the fact that they feel, and this is what they said, and I quote, in their opinion, the reboot, or soft reboot, retcon, whatever you want to call it, was a coward's way out. This is what they said, and I quote, about 14 hours ago. You could see it right there, if you can. You can see it right there. I don't know if you can really see it. It's in the light, but yeah, it's right there. But this is what he says, and I quote. And he did a little bit of misspelling, but hey, when you type this up on a computer or on your phone, you're going to get some misspells and missing words and typos and all that, especially when you got a lot to say. But this is what Ian Manning said. Ian Manning said about 14 hours ago, but like I said, which is about probably at 6:30 Pacific time on Friday. This is what he said, and I quote, in my opinion, the reboot was a coward's way out, escaping all the events and stories yet to be told. So yeah, I'm pissed at Ken Penders for leaving with his characters. However, no offense to Ian Flynn, and if I was responsible for making up an ending for the ArchieVerse story, it would be one that ended in a milestone one fans would feel satisfied for, and one as legendary as the hero himself. But of course, the ending can't be immediate. It has to lead, to it by a few different story arcs, many of which revolves around an end to the source of pain and suffering in the heroes and the recovering allies' lives. So here are the steps I would like for the final story saga leading to the end. So what they're saying basically here is they're not particularly a fan of the reboot, if you will, the soft reboot, retcon, whatever you want to call it. They're not particularly a fan of it, and honestly, they're not alone. There's a lot of people that are not a fan of the retcon, the reboot, soft retcon, because they felt, and as he mentioned here, that there was a lot of things unresolved. There was some things that were left opened and cliffhangered, and they shouldn't have been left that way. Now, he does put blame on Ken Penders for, taking his characters with him, but, here's the thing. It's like I said in one video, the blame goes all the way around. It honestly does. It goes all the way around because, yeah, Ken can take the blame, Carl can take the blame, Ian can take the blame, but Archie, right at the top of the list, has to take the blame because they should have known from past experiences working with others that you need to have a contract written up and a copy given to all parties so that just in case one party decides, hey, I want to do this, I want to take my characters with me, then one of the parties, if not the main party in charge, can show the contract to, let's say, a judge or a legal team and say, yeah, as much as he would like to do that, this is how much it's going to cost him to take it back, or, you know, here's his signature saying that we own the rights to the characters. And, you know, have they done that, Archie, that is, for Sonic, and not just decide, hey, it's another story, another comic that, you know, people like, and hey, you know, it's getting us some good sales, as well as have some other internal situations, then yeah, I don't think Ken would be part of I don't think they would be at the top of the blame game, if you will. But yeah, you know, like I said, it's a four-way sharing of the blame, if you will, with Archie probably taking most of it. Now, this is what he says. He says he says spoiler alert. He meant spoiler. But he says this, spoiler alert. Now he goes on to basically say this, and I quote, or paraphrase and quote. He goes on to say that before the short-lived reboot occurred, Sally sacrificed herself by being roboticized. Antron was blown up by Metal Sonic and placed in a coma. Bunny Robot's robot limbs were restored to flesh and blood, yet Antron's state left her searching for a way to regain what she lost. Knuckles lost his friends and family when Thrash the Tasmanian Devil banished them in a warp ring, leaving them all in an unknown realm. Jeffrey St. John, when he started to doubt his master, quotes, he puts the word master. And let me reread that. Sorry, I'm walking around here just biding some time, and the sun kind of makes it a little difficult to read. But it goes on to say, Jeffrey St. John was suddenly possessed by Ixis Nagus when he started to doubt his master. That's why I lost track of there. Scourge the Hedgehog and his allies broke free from the multi-universal prison, and with the aid of Silver, Tails, and Amy, Sonic was able to recover Mecha Sally, while a means of changing her back was being made by Rotor back in Knothole. The tragedies and dark events all felt like a build-up to a true finale before the soft reboot, happened. So here's my concept opinions on the ending in the Sonic ArchieVerse. And as you could probably read there, hopefully, let me get the highlight thing back on. You know, that's kind of what he was talking about a little bit. Now, this is what he says. I'm not going to read them all in detail. I'm just going to point out some. I'm just going to basically name off his listing and go from there. He does note that Sonic the Hedgehog Online, or Archie Sonic Online, has done their own storytelling and may have already beat him to the plot. Still, he's got to list what he's got to list. In other words, he's basically telling us, and it's somewhat true to an extent, that Archie Sonic Online has beaten him to certain plot threads, or resolving certain plot threads, loose plot threads. But still, he wants to list off how he sees it ending, or how he would have had it end, in his opinion. First of all, and he does, I think there's like, how many of these? There's 10 of them, so it's like a top 10 basically. These are his top 10, I guess you could say these are his 10 ways, his 10 concepts and opinions on how the ArchieVerse for Sonic would have ended, especially with the story arc they were working with. Number 1, Sonic saves Sally. This, he puts it, was the moment we deserved in the comics before the reboot and cancellation combined. With Mecha Sally reclaimed by her friends, including her boyfriend, Sonic, the situation is more dire than ever for the Blue Blur to show his capabilities when it comes to being a hero. Robotnik may of course make it hard for Sonic to try by using several metal versions of various freedom fighters, but after everything the egomaniac did to Sonic and his loved ones, you can bet Sonic will succeed and won't let Sally go without a fight. Now, of course, you know, he did get Sally back in the in the Archie Sonic Online continuation of the original comic. So if you follow Archie Sonic Online, he did get her back. And they are obviously building to her getting back on the field. And I can't wait to see how they resolve that, or they get to that point. Next up, Ixis, Nagus, and Robotnik, Eggman, if you will, combine into a new villain. And basically he points out that the reason he brings this up as a concept and opinion to make part of the finale for that mega story arc that Ian was doing. The reason he says this is because, as we saw in the comic and as was pretty much followed through in Archie Sonic Online, and basically stopped at the ended on a continuation to happen. Nagus was basically mutating. His body was being overtaken by the three spirits that possessed him, that made up his body. Because in the comics, in the official comics, and even in the online, we find out that his body is comprised of different Exis wizards, and they're trying to take control of it again because he's failing to do his job. So what Ian Manning comes up with is the idea that, it's not going to end well for Nagus, and that Jeffrey St. John won't be possessed for long. So where does that leave Nagus in the grand scheme of things? Well, he basically feels that the way Nagus is, he's desperate for control. He wants to take his place as ruler and all that, but he also doesn't want to keep suffering. So what does he do? He basically decides he's going to possess, or basically his idea, I should say, is that Nagus, I'm trying to think about what I'm going to say there, will possess Robotnik / Eggman. Basically, his reasoning, that being Ian Manning's reasoning, is that if Nagus feels he's going to be a hated tyrant, might as well, go all the way and possess a hated tyrant, which would be Robotnik, and turn them and basically turn both of them into somewhat of a techno mage or techno organic wizard, a techno organic wizard with power over machines and magic. So that's basically his resolution for Nagus and even Eggman to an extent, to really, up things to the next level. The fact that Nagus will get to a point that Jeffrey will probably expel him from his body somehow, and that because he's still desperate and doesn't want to lose control to those within him, he'll possess Robotnik, Eggman, if you will, and they'll become one. They'll become one individual. And thus that would basically take things to another level. The other one, number 3, Knuckles saves Julie's shoe and the other echidnas. Now he brings up again that, as we all saw in the comic, Thrash the Tasmanian Devil, who worked with Sonic and Knuckles in an earlier issue, turned out to be a real jerk. And that he used a special warp ring to send all the echidnas into limbo, basically into an endless limbo where they would remain. Now, of course, we all know from behind the scenes status, from what I'm trying to say. Okay, let me rewind. Okay. What I was trying to say is we all know from a behind the scenes status that the real reason for the characters being put into the warp ring, being put into limbo, was because of the fact that they were created by Ken, and basically Mike P, according to Trains fan, if you will, is one of the sole responsibilities, if not the sole responsible individual for making that happen, because they wanted to basically rid themselves of anything Ken Penders related, as much as they can, kind of cleanse the book, if you will. Anyway, he basically points out that Knuckles deserves justice, and he would have him go out into the world on a quest to find his girlfriend, because he doesn't know exactly where Thrasher has sent them. All he knows is that it's somewhere in limbo or somewhere in an unknown part of the world, and that eventually he would not only find them, that being Knuckles, but he would also find, the Dark Legion, who also got put into the similar situation, that being Linda and all of them, which would create an interesting conflict between the two, or a grudge match, if you will, between the two. So yeah, that would be his third thing he would want to have resolved heading towards the climax. The other one, number 4, Ventivius creates a villain army. Long story short, he feels that if you're going to make this a grand finale, if you're going to go all out, then have Knuckles' arch enemy, Dr. Ventivius, basically a very villainous echidna, albino echidna, if you will, no offense, create an army of villains that not only Knuckles has encountered, but also Sonic, and have them to a point that they could rival maybe Eggman's Mecha Empire, and that he could, and basically he could also feel that if this happens, you could have villains not just from the comics, but from the games, and you could have them together, not only rival Eggman's army, but also probably try to go after the Master Emerald, which has always been the Doctor's main goal: get the Emerald for some reason. Number 5, he would have Jeffrey St. John redeemed. Basically, if Hershey Cat did return, that could be the turning point for Jeffrey. And even though his secret service could be dissolved, and no one but Hershey, his wife, by his side, he could see Jeffrey joining the old or even the new team of freedom fighters. So in other words, what he's saying is that he could see Jeffrey being redeemed if Hershey shows up, as I think it was going to be originally planned, and that if Hershey shows up, that basically, that would encourage, him to reject Naugus, and even if his team is officially gone, dissolved, if you will, they could basically join up with the original freedom fighters, expand them, or even join up with a new version. Maybe even being founding members, who knows. But yeah, that's his number 5. Number 6 would be Tails versus Fiona. And this kind of correlates with the number 4 one that he came up with Ventivius creating an army. And that basically he lines it up, he outlines the Tails versus Fiona deal, the grudge match that began with a broken heart. That, during maybe an attempt to get the Master Emerald, Fiona tries to go to do a power drain. In other words, try to drain it into herself, or drain it with some kind of device the Doctor gave her. And this basically with Tails, and thus Tails basically noticing this would use the Emerald to go turbo, if you will, Super Tails. And by going turbo, going Super Tails, if you will, by going turbo Super Tails, he would fight Fiona. And of course, Fiona being who she is and knowing how Tails feels about her, or did feel about her, would try to woo him over, would try to play on his feelings, but basically Tails this time wouldn't fall for it, and they would end up fighting. That is one I could see happening, but I think honestly there was other plans for Fiona. I think one of the plans was to redeem her. I just don't know why. And I think Ian even hinted at that. The other one he has at number 7 is End the Chaos Emeralds. So long story short, he's involving a character called Mammoth Mogul against Sonic and Sally. And that basically Sonic would not be so Sonic-y for a while, to help support Sally, to help get her back on her feet, to help her get mentally and physically, back, ready to get back on the field. But, you know, doing all that, they would come to the realization that the reason all this is happening is because the villains all want the same thing, and that's the Chaos Emeralds. So the best thing to do is for Sonic and Sally to go around the world, maybe with some allies, and essentially find the emeralds, and not just use them to go super for Sonic and maybe even give us a Super Sally, who knows, but also in the process destroy them. Thus, if you get rid of the one thing the villains are all after most of the time, then they don't have, you know, then by getting rid of them, they won't have, you know, any true, you know, power goal or true power to go after to try to help them advance their conquest or help them advance their goals, if you know what I mean. So yeah, he basically number 7 for him would be end the Chaos Emeralds and basically get rid of them, because if they're the cause of everybody's problems or the reason that the villains are always causing trouble, then why not just get rid of them? And that probably would be something that would be a good idea. But you got to remember, a lot of some of the things that he mentions that he would like to see happen, in his opinion, if he was in charge, yeah, Sega probably wouldn't be cool with. You know, that's the only disadvantage with a licensed product. Number 8, he says, death of Robotnik / Eggman, but not by Sonic, but by somebody else. He states that one of the best ideas to go with is to have, you know, he might basically, okay, let me rewind. Okay. Basically, number 8 is death of Robotnik. Long story short, he basically feels that, you know, Robotnik could be defeated not by Sonic, but by Bunny and Tornado Amy. You know, basically a team comprised of them, to prove that Sonic doesn't always have to be the hero in the end. And that by doing so, he could see Amy taking Sonic and Sally's mantle as Mobius's greatest hero and leader of the Freedom Fighters by building a team and kicking Robotnik's butt once and for all. So yeah, he basically feels that, you know, if you're going to kill Robotnik, if you're going to take a villain like Robotnik out of the equation, then do it in an unpredictable way. And the best unpredictable way is to have it done by a team led by someone that has a crush on Sonic, and that of course is Amy Rose. Then number 9, we have Final Battle Sonic versus Sonic. And basically this is because this basically comes down to preserving the balance that has been Sonic's job since the day he was born. However, with Archie Sonic's desire to make a change and make a world without Robotnik or the Chaos Emeralds, some of which have connections to the zones of all types, Sonic will probably stand as the last line of defense for the Emerald's existence. During his first encounter with Sonic, he informed him that must always be certain forces in conflict, so if Sonic can remove either one of those forces, it could be neat to see Sonic oppose Sonic, and then we could see these two duke it out with each other, in every trick one or the other have learned, or with every trick one or the other have learned. I can see Sonic being Sonic and telling him to telling him to back the heck off from now on. So what he's going back on here is there's an issue when he turns Scourge in. It's the end of the issue. You know, Scourge no longer has the Beryllium powers to make him super or anything, and so he's just beaten now. So Sonic takes him to Sonic and to place him in prison. And one of the things that Sonic asks Sonic is, cool, so when are you going to come get Eggman? And Sonic tells him he's not. Sonic says, no, that's the wrong answer. This Eggman, this Robotnik we're dealing with is from another world. He doesn't belong in our world. You need to get rid of him, or you need to get him out of our world. And Sonic's answer or excuse was, look, the Robotnik you're facing now has a lot of similar traits to your original, so I can't really do anything. My hands are tied for the moment. Although a lot of people would say that's an excuse by him for the fact that he has too much going on and he doesn't want to have to deal with another person he has to put behind bars, or basically put back into the original world. And his excuse is it makes a perfect balance. So that's why he's saying that the final battle of Sonic and Sonic would be a good idea to, really climactic on, in the story, because if there's anybody in story to truly blame for a lot of the heck going on with, because of Eggman, it's the guy that didn't have the chance to take Eggman back to his world when he should have. Then of course, number 10, the ending. It's the era of King Sonic and Sally, the wedding, basically stating that the king and the queen will step down and everything and all that. They'll have a family and friends coming out for the wedding, one of them revealing the LGBTQ, and all that. And they even say in the epilogue they could see Sonic's kids as teenagers who are involved in a new team of freedom fighters involving Knuckles and Julie Sue's daughter, and Tails as a mentor. So yeah, he does bring up some honorable mentions too as well, so which are pretty good. But yeah, that's just a fan's opinion, his opinion on how he feels feels things could have gone, or how he would have done it, without the reboot, occurring basically without the reboot screwing things over. That's basically he's just listing off what he would have done, or he would have loved to see done, or even still would love to see done in the future, to kind of really give a true conclusion to what's going on. But this is why you have Archie Sonic Online, because you're not only getting a fan's continuation of the book, but you're also getting other interpretations like Mobius Legends and all that to help tie things around. But what are you guys' thoughts on what he had to say? Let me know down below in the comments and in the live chat during the premiere, guys. I got to get into work, but let me know what your thoughts are, and I am out.